All right, so I'll be demoing StudyHawk. We can see here that it's running locally on my computer, and you can see that it's running off my browser locally as well, and the database is within the cloud, so that's online. First thing I'll show is the sign up and log in feature. You can see it lands on the login page first. You can navigate to the sign up page. Let's try creating an account. See if we mistype the confirm password, we get an error. Type it correctly, then it navigates to the login page because the account was created. We're going to go ahead and create another account and try to use that duplicate username. You can see that it says the username is already taken, so we'll just choose other. All right, let's go ahead and log in. That's the other part of the sign up and login requirement. See, that works great. And then there's a sign up button I will show later. So that's the whole sign up and login requirement. The next requirement I'll show is creating a deck. You can add a deck here, name it blank deck. With a description, and then this is for a feature we didn't implement, but you can go ahead and create it. And then let's just go ahead and create another one called motions, deck about motions, and that's created. Okay. Now you can see that if you press edit on one of the decks, you can fulfill the rest of the created deck of cards requirement by adding cards. As you can see here, let's just say anger. Anger is a hateful emotion. Let's say sadness. Sadness is a sorrowful emotion, and let's say joy. Joy is a joyful emotion, and we can save our changes. So that is the rest of that feature implemented. You can also modify the title and description up here, and then this is something for another feature we didn't implement. The next thing I'll show is the add an image to a card feature, and you can see here, if you just go ahead and click that, you can add an image. You can add an image there and save your changes. And now the images are in there. If you wanted to remove an image, you could remove it and save your changes. Or if you added the wrong image here, the wrong image, say you added anger instead of sadness, and then you switch it to sadness, save your changes, and perfect, it's in place. So you can navigate back. Now I'll show the next feature, view a deck of cards. You can see we're reviewing them right now with the list of decks with their titles and their descriptions. And then we have our study button. So let's go ahead and try to study a blank deck. You can see there are no cards in the deck. We'll go back. Now let's try studying the emotions deck. You can see here that this is the view cards requirement. This is the study mode. So you can navigate between the cards and it's all in order. You can shuffle them so that they're in a different order. This just randomizes it, and then unshuffle puts it back in the original order. You can have it so it shows definitions first, but if you click it, it flips it. So you can see here, that's the definition there with the image that we put in there. And you can have it so it shows the definition first instead. There we go. Now I'll go ahead and navigate back. That's the view cards feature. The favorite / save a deck feature is right here. So if you go ahead and favorite one, it brings it to the top. Now we opted to do this instead of the folder because it's more convenient. So we modified that requirement a little bit. Now, the next thing I'll show is, I forgot to mention that whenever you're looking at it, the shuffle is actually another requirement that we implemented. So that's the shuffle deck when viewing requirement, and that's all implemented. So then actually the final requirement I'll show is the sharing requirement. So if you go ahead and go here to this deck, we can say, oh, I want to share a deck to this random user A. You can say that there's no user with that username. Well, if you do share it with someone who exists, like the other account we just created, it'll say the deck was shared successfully, and I can show the sign out button works for the sign up and log in requirement. There we go. Go ahead and log into the other account. And there we go. Now you see under your shared decks, you have a deck called emotions, and it's a deck about emotions. It's that deck that we just created, and you can study it. And you can also remove that from your list if you don't want to see that anymore. And sign out. Now that was StudyHawk. We did decide not to implement two of the features because we ran out of time, and that is the associated deck with a class and a professor and browse public decks features. Thank you.